We've started, our primary focus is on that age group 25 to 34, but it isn't lost on me that as time marches on, people start looking for space and they want to start moving probably a little bit further away from their place of work, and they may start commuting a little bit more. So we're very happy to look at what we're calling a sort of more of a suburban model, and we can see, because people we think will rent for longer, we can see them moving out of their flat in London, maybe moving to a much bigger flat in somewhere that is more of a commuter type distance. So that is something that we will put some energy into. We have started researching the over 55 market just to see what it looks like. I think it probably behaves more like residential as it does in Europe, where it's a much more steady, stable, predictable return over long periods of time. But there are some issues with liquidity. We have quite a small market here, and there are very few market players there as well. So deploying capital in scale into that market is quite a tricky thing to do. There's also, if you then start going into equity release and you look at that market itself as an income-driven investor, doesn't really work for us because you're receiving very large lumps of capital on a lumpy basis. It's an actuarial-based business. It's fraught with regulation. There are, again, a few players in that sector that do it fairly well. And again, hard for us to deploy meaningful sums of capital. So yeah, 25 to 34 today, 34 probably to 45 tomorrow. We will look at that sector, and I suspect we'll invest into it in due course.
I think it's quite an interesting discussion about what should the resi product look like that we want to build. And I think in Germany we are having this discussion for a while, and everybody is talking about how should we live tomorrow or in 10 or 15 years time, and I think the answer is we will live like we're living today, because simply we are not building that much stock that the living environment will tremendously change. And at the same time, looking at this new build stock, it's high quality, high price or high rent segment, so it's not the mass market. You really get the return side on. Therefore, I think in Germany there's a lot of talk about that, but you simply have to concentrate on location and efficiency to generate the return side. And that's, I think, it's also what we have to keep in mind when looking at the other European countries. Most of the stock, how we will live in 15 years' time, is already built right now. And the thing that's newly built is only very small. The UK might be a little different, given that the PRS sector is non-existing right now. But even in countries like Denmark, the last 10, 15 years, there was built a lot, but it's more or less, we are living still like we've lived 10, 15 years ago.
Okay, good. Yep, Javier. Yeah.
I agree to some extent. I think there's a wide variety of cultural differences in Europe, and obviously, France, Spain, some of these southern European countries are very different than to the northern countries in that sense. And just looking at emancipation age, and looking at unemployment rates, and seeing, particularly the young unemployment, which is a main concern in Spain, where 40 and 50% of the unemployed are under 30 in that sense. So, looking into how that's going to affect the residential market, and how the movement of people across different countries, looking for employment, is going to affect, obviously it's going to be very different in that sense. But I think it's something we definitely need to keep an eye on.
I think the perception of rented residential as an accepted tenure has changed a lot in the last 5 to 8 years. Not only within the group of households that are now think that's a part of life to live in a rented apartment, not an owner-occupied apartment. But also it changed politically, because we realized in the financial crisis that a high ownership rate in itself economically can be very harmful, as it hinders flexibility in the household sector. Because if you have an over-indebted household, it's not that easy for a household to adapt to new working conditions, or even to move from one place to the other if the economy demands it.